So, this is a completely impromptu video, but I was down here waiting for work to come, and I was looking around for a movie to watch, and I found this. It was called the 1939 Battle of Westerplatte, and turns out that that's only actually one of its several names. It's the original title is Tajemnica Westerplatte, and it's about the Battle of Westerplatte, the first one of the first actions of the Second World War. And I started watching it. I knew the battle. I'd read about it. A relatively small Polish force held out against a much larger German force with the artillery assistance of a German battleship, or pre-dreadnought, more specifically. And these couple of hundred men, somewhere between 180 to 250-ish, not entirely sure, held out for over a week, before eventually having to surrender. And so, of course, I looked it up on Wikipedia, and there's not much on Wikipedia about it, except the reception. And apparently, this film sparked controversy with allegations saying it was anti-Polish and unpatriotic because of its revisionist attitude to the heroic myth of the Battle of Westerplatte, which is a symbol of the against the odds defiance to the Nazi invasion by the Poles. And some historians dismissed it as a false depiction of the battle that is being offensive to the dignity and honor of Polish soldiers, which is a little bit strange. And then I get, according to the Telegraph, while the film has garnered its detractors, cinema critics have dismissed claims that the secret of Westerplatte belittles the soldiers who fought and died in the battle. And I have to tend to agree with that. Before I continue, it should be known that I very, very greatly admire the Poles. Right now, I believe Poland is pretty much the greatest country in Europe at the moment. And so I went ahead and watched it, and I see where the anti-Poland or anti-Polish and unpatriotic descriptors of it comes from, and how people think it's revisionist because of the way that it portrays the commander of the Westerplatte garrison as a very weak-willed, cowardly man who just wanted to surrender. And I watched it, and I'm not Polish, obviously. I'm an American. But it doesn't seem like, to me, it's really anti-Polish or unpatriotic. You know, we don't consider... What was that one movie? Full Metal Jacket. We don't really consider Full Metal Jacket to be unpatriotic, and yet it doesn't portray American soldiers in the greatest light. Because the truth is that apparently around the Battle of Westerplatte is this great myth where everyone was defiant and no one wanted to surrender and everyone just wanted to fight, but they ran out of ammo and food and had to surrender. But the reality is that there is no way that all 180 to 250 of those Polish soldiers were like that. I'm sure a great deal of them were, and as shown in the movie, half of them wanted to continue fighting after the surrender. And the fact that the commander continued to give in to them shows that he didn't necessarily want to surrender, but at the same time he recognized what was obvious, is that by about halfway through, what would their deaths accomplish? And in the movie, it shows that even up until the day before the surrender, that the anti-surrender half in the movie still... sorry, this is completely unscripted, so sometimes I lose my train of thought. My point is that this movie, the 1939 Battle of Westerplatte, which is the name I'm going to use because I can't pronounce its proper Polish name. I can't pronounce a lot of Polish stuff. But the fact is it shows the Battle of Westerplatte in a more realistic light, in that not everybody there wanted to fight to the death. A lot of them, I'm sure, did. And I'm sure there was a few of them that didn't want to fight to the death, and that they just wanted to surrender because they saw this pointless to fight for the death when it would accomplish no physical goal. There was no strategic reason for Poland to hold on to the small island of Westerplatte. It served them no use. And more of the showing of being offensive to the dignity and honor of Polish soldiers. I had to go back to remember the line that was exactly there. And I can see how that movie would portray that too. I think it was about halfway through the movie, they have a bunch of Poles that are up in one of the 5 concrete blockhouses that made up the second line of defense, get into a giant fisticuffs brawl with each other while the Germans are slowly sneaking around them. Well, not even sneaking around them, they're just walking around them. They think the bunker's empty or something. But what I think should be taken from that is not that fisticuff started, but is that when outside forces outside the bunker told them, yeah, hey, the Germans are around you, they didn't keep fighting each other. They immediately went and started tossing grenades out the windows. And the fact is that not everyone can handle the stress of war. Really, nobody can. People can, hold it together a lot better than others can, but even they still get affected. So really, to me, this movie, Tajemnica Westerplatte, really it just shows the battle in a more realistic, somewhat more artistic light. And also, I get the revisionist part is because for the longest time we thought it was, at least apparently from what I've been able to read, is that the entire battle was seen as everybody just wanting to fight to the last, the commander heroically leading everybody until they just couldn't fight anymore. But apparently in the 1990s, information came out that the commander may not have been in charge of his men from the second day onwards. Which, well, I can't tell you if that's true or not. I wasn't there. I don't even know where those sources come from. If it's that were people that were there, or papers that were found that were written, or what. I don't know what the source for that is. But it does... I can see where the anger comes from. But at the same time, I think the anger is misplaced about the movie. Is because, okay, so what if the commander was pretty much incapacitated from the second day onward and when he was coherent, wanted to surrender? So what if the Poles that were there got stressed out and took out their stress on each other? That just makes them human. And there is signs that, like I said, this is unscripted, so I have to think of this stuff as I go, but, the defense of the Polish post office in Danzig, the Battle of Lotz? I don't know how to say that. I've never even seen an L with a slash through it like that. So I'm just going to call it what it would be without any markings on it, which is Lodz. Obviously, I'm not saying that correctly, but the Battle of Wisna, which was fought starting the day that the Westerplatte garrison surrendered. And even if that was the case, even if the commander wanted to, always surrender, even if some of the men wanted to surrender and they started fighting each other, they still held it together for a week. And the movie doesn't try and abscond that fact. And in fact, the movie actually incorporates what was a rumor, is that at some point on the second or third day, a white flag was seen briefly before it was suddenly gone. Now, nobody really knows if that was true or not, but it would make sense if the commander had wanted to surrender as early as the second day. So overall, I guess the point of this video is to just give a non-Poles thoughts on the movie and on what was apparently, because this movie is almost 10 years old now, 9 years, came out in February of 2013. I just wanted to give a non-Poles view on the movie, and I think it's a fantastic movie. It looks like a good movie. It was a good movie. I literally just got finished watching it. And I think the anti-Polish and unpatriotic criticism that it got was unwarranted. I think it was patriotic. Because, yeah, the movie shows that some of the men were cowardly and wanted to surrender or couldn't hack it. That just makes them human. Not all of them are superhumans. If you compare Westerplatte to, say, the Battle of Wisna, where the commanding officer swore to hold his position as long as he was alive, and after he surrendered, he killed himself, because literally he held his position as long as he was alive, and when he wasn't holding his position anymore, he killed himself, so he wasn't alive anymore. You compare that to the vision of a commander that is cowardly and wants to surrender the day after the battle starts, and all of that. It is a very contrasting style, but once again, that's more realistic to me, because once again, not let me look. What is his name? I have the tab pulled up here. Oh dear Lord. Oh, great. More L's with slashes through them. I'm not even going to pretend. I'm not going to dishonor his first name. Raginis? That looks like how his last name's pronounced. Not everyone can be a Raginis, who is so determined to hold to his word of, they will take this position over my dead body, to that when they take the position, he kills himself so that he literally honors his word. Not everyone can be like that. Not everyone is like that. No one will ever, not with sometime in the future, not every single human will be like that. So, I think the criticism is unwarranted. I can see where it comes from, but I think it's largely unwarranted. I think the movie shows the defenders of Westerplatte as men carrying out their duty to the best of their abilities. And not all of them had the greatest ability in the world to carry out those orders. But once again, that's just realistic. That's just life. There are some people who are like that. But the fact that they managed to hold themselves together, even though some of them probably wanted to surrender, for over a week, including their commander, for over an entire week against, I think 15 times their number or so, something like that. Could be wrong there. Somewhere around that, give or take a couple of magnitudes. It still says a lot about them, and the movie doesn't try and change that. One of the last scenes of them talking is the commander tearing off numbers off of his calendar to show that it is September 7th. So, yeah, this video is 15 minutes long now. I'm just yammering on. Lovely abode I've got behind me. What are you expecting? Lovely video quality coming from a Chromebook. So, I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Nobody needs to hear my jawing anymore. But yeah. The movie Tajemnica Westerplatte which once again I'm terribly sorry for utterly and ruthlessly slaughtering that Polish, but well, I'm not a Pole. I think it's a good movie. It takes what is a historical event, dramatizes it a little bit, but largely sticks to what happened. They had the bit with the fire train. They had the rumor that the Germans saw a white flag for a little while. They kept up for the week long excuse me time that the defenders actually held out. So yeah, it doesn't portray every single Pole that defended Westerplatte as some kind of ironclad Superman who just shoved all of his fear and anxiety and the terror of war deep down and just gutted it out, because likely not all of them did that. So anyways, I'm going ahead and cut it here. I hope you enjoyed this rambling 16, 17 minute video on my thoughts on that movie, but I thought it was good. Some bits were weird. The whole like PTSD deal of the commando whose name I'm not gonna butcher. You know, seeing the face of a friend and having just been unstrapped from a table, and seeing his friend in front of him, and then seeing his hands bloody when they're not, and then seeing a half burned man. That was a bit weird, a bit, well, to be honest, a bit scary. That was a bit frightening. But and then him waking up from a bed and standing up and walking off into a filled field with men burying other men. Like, I get where they were going with it. It was a little strange, but otherwise it was a good movie. I don't believe it deserves its the anti-Polish and unpatriotic and offensive to the dignity and honor of Polish soldiers criticism that it got after it was released. I think it was a very realistic portrayal of what probably happened at Westerplatte. But anyways, until I come up with something else to make a video about, I'll see y'all later.